Hello, new boys, or anyone looking to set up their own Snapview. Today we'll be going over how to set up your own Snapview in the SPAD for the Aldous site. And also I figured I'd throw in these as well for the cockpit instruments and the compass on the floor. So, to start off, we'll be going to settings, camera, and I don't actually know the difference between all these, but I just use centered quick view. And that's what works for me. And then snap camera mode, you want to set all of these to 100. That controls how fast your pilot actually snaps to the snap view itself. So if you put it to 0, it takes about 5 seconds to snap to the snap view, which obviously in combat is not acceptable. For right now, you're going to want to set all these down to 0. And it's important that you know this key here, save current corrections in head snap position. I believe the default is F10. I changed it to a button on my mouse, but make sure you know what that is. Again, I do believe the default is F10. And then, so we're just going to start with the Aldous snap view first. So it doesn't actually matter which one of these you use for the snap view. You could use snap position right if you wanted to, because you're gonna bind a key to it and set a custom snap view to it anyway. But I just used position forward. So you need a key you can hold down and fly the plane and aim at a disgusting Hun, and you need a key that is not going to interrupt like the stability of your arm holding the joystick, right? It's not going to interrupt with your aim. So me personally, I just use the hat switch and I push it forward, which would be POV 0, 0, the 0 pertaining to north, like 0 degrees on a compass. So now I have that set here. So we go back into the game. Now when I hold it down, that's obviously not where you want it. So to fine tune the adjustment, you want to use the insert, home, page up, page down, end, and delete keys. So you hold, each one kind of does a different function. You'll see what they do when you hold them down. Delete moves you to the left, and end to the right. Page up and down, or up and down. So I'm going to use page down, and it's going to put me into the site here. So you basically just fine tune where you want it here. Also, if you need to adjust the vertical look of the site, you can use your mouse as well. So I'm currently holding the snap view down right now, obviously. And if I move the mouse, I can, put it where I want it. So if you're like looking up or looking down as the snap view defaults to that, just use your mouse and pull it back up to where you want it, and then make sure to hit the F10 key. And make sure the pilot head is all the way forward, like this. And then it's up to you if you want any zoom or not. I like a pretty fair amount of it myself, but that's pretty personal preference. But just make sure you have the pilot head all the way forward, because that lets you look over your nose just a little bit more, which is important in deflection shots. You don't actually need to center it like perfectly like this, because as long as you can see the middle reticle, that's where the bullets are going to go. It doesn't matter where the sight is in the picture, right? So the rounds are going in the middle. If I page up, gun jam. If I page up, they're still there. So as long as you can see the sight, the bullets are going to go there. So personally, I put it a little bit high, just because when you're pulling lead, the sight kind of sinks downwards because your pilot is sinking into the chair, right? So I put it, about right there. Now that you have it here, where you want it, wherever that may be, just hit your F10 key or whatever key you have bound for that. It's a button on my mouse, but it should be F10 for most people. And once you hit that button, it'll be saved. So now whenever you hit your button, whatever button that is, you should snap right to the Aldous. Now, one thing I did, because I found it Whenever I set it to 0, like north, sometimes my thumb would kind of move off to the side, like into the left diagonal or the right diagonal, like 45 degrees or 315. So I actually put 315, you can see here, 315 and 45 on the same binding. So then when I'm trying to aim, my thumb wouldn't come off the binding, and then my pilot view would not snap out of the Aldis, which is pretty important when you're trying to shoot someone down. So at that point, it pretty much becomes the same process if you want to make snap views for the instruments. So I put the right side instruments on snap position right, so that would be 90 degrees to the right. So now I'm holding down the hat switch to the right. So again, just like the Aldis site, you just want to use the insert home keys, all those keys. Just get it how you like it. Then hit F10 and it'll save that. Same procedure for the left. And then also if you want one for the compass, which is nice, you know, when someone's saying, oh, there's a contact west or something, you know, you can just snap to it and immediately know where he is instead of like trying to look down and zoom in on it. You know, that's just, when you're in combat, you need to be time efficient. And once you have all your snap views set up, make sure you go back to settings, camera, and then in here in the pan camera mode, make sure you set this back to whatever you had. This controls the zoom speed, zoom in and out, this kind of thing, which, you know, you use that a lot in combat, trying to ID targets far away and whatnot, and that's, you know, this is just way too slow. So again, that's personal preference. I use about 40 on mine. Just make sure you reset that. Also, for those who are not using Track IR, I had a friend who had this problem once when he would try to use the snap view, and it would like, you'd hold the button down and it would just snap up and like stay there even after making the snap view. And I believe if you press F9, that should fix it. That basically just changes between the different snap mode views. So like if you see right here, it's changed pilot head control method, center snap view, all that stuff. If you don't have Track IR, get a Track IR. What are you doing? Also, if you happen to mess anything up, I play on 3 screens, so you can't actually see the button, but over like right here on the bottom right should be a key that says default, and that'll default all your keys back to the default settings. I would back up your settings first though if you do that, because you might have a bunch of other stuff bound that you may not necessarily want to rebind. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So now you can murder Huns in the most efficient way possible.